It's World War III watch. Let's just face it, it's already started. I'm here with guest correspondent today, Fiorella from Truthwire, coming to us. You're back in Moscow, right? Is that correct?
No, I'm actually still in the States. I'll get back there in a few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hot right now. So
Well,
yeah.
thanks for taking the time out on the Homeless Left here with us. These are all topics we've been covering for the whole way, months and months and months. We know you have for sure. So we saw kind of a boiling point that kind of bursted these last couple days, in the last 48 hours, it seems, where it to me, what we're looking at is that it's not a coincidence that we have the Epstein list being told to us. No more. It doesn't exist. We're done with that. Right when Netanyahu shows up to the White House to give Trump a Nobel Peace Prize nomination, and then to obviously continue the genocide in Gaza, pretend to the media, make this false claim that we're just waiting on Hamas to give us back the hostages so we can just continue to push forward the Greater Israel Project. And then to top it all off, we have Trump sending more weapons to Ukraine. Fee, right off the bat, before we're going to go down a little bit more on the Ukraine thing to start, but do you see this timing as a coincidence, or it was all bound to all happen anyways, or is there a deliberate intention here on the calendar to set these up in this order of happening so quickly?
Yeah, I think that there is a plan. There has been a plan, and it's not the plan that MAGA thinks is actually going on. It's the plan of the military intelligence apparatus. The Iranian response, I think, had a lot to do with how they're proceeding. I think Iran showed they were more than capable of defending themselves simultaneously against Israel and the United States, also backed by NATO, and the rest of their proxies, also backed by a completely fallen Syria and just everything going on around Gaza. And I think they saw that and they have just completely said, okay, now we must move forward. And I think that was the plan all along, but they were sort of dragging it out. Now I think they're going to be a lot more intelligent about everything else, because when we talk about what we're seeing, as you said, it is all connected. Everything is happening right now. We had to pretty much have things happen because of the fact that now, of course, Syria is open game, as we're seeing, and the normalization with Syria and the U.S. and Israel is happening. Now, when we look at it from a U.S. perspective, Donald Trump ran and he was elected, or at least he garnered enough support to seem like he was the guy that was going to go after the establishment, because majorly the Ukraine war was supposed to end. He was supposed to, at the very least, bring that in. He was supposed to bring an end to the immigration crisis and no more wars. He was supposed to be the peace president and take on the surveillance state. The only thing that he has done, and not even as effectively as Obama, as you always point out, is the border issue. He's gone full throttle with ICE and all of that. But along with that, it's been an expansion on the surveillance state, using AI drone fare, using AI, giving billions and billions to the big technocrats in Silicon Valley, inviting them to the government, having, of course, Palantir, DARPA, and all of that we talked about in the big, beautiful bill and also in the defense budget. And so now he has completely reneged on everything else, because now is the time to sort of let everybody know that he's not really, he's not really in control. Like, I think his base is really realizing that he isn't really calling the shots. And it didn't matter that we had a dementia president for so long, because these people aren't calling the shots. And so now there's really no choice for him to do. There's nothing for him to do. He's not in control. So now that the votes are in, now that he's in power, now they're just going to go status quo on the foreign policy, which is pointing to war with Iran, war with China, and ongoing, of course, escalation with the Russia-Ukraine war. And that's why I think we've seen the pivot in regard to Putin, because now they're attacking Russia on other fronts, including the Polish front, which was always going to happen, and also the front on near its former Soviet states, Azerbaijan, and in this region as well. So I think there's no escaping our foreign policy, which has been dictated and passed through each through each administration. So.
Oh man, yeah, this is so we'll try to break this down. We were talking yesterday on the big move Trump made on switching. He went against the Pentagon, who said no more weapons to Ukraine, and then he just went and did it anyways. This is where the AP reports that the Trump was caught off guard by the Pentagon's abrupt move to pause Ukraine weapons deliveries. The AP source says his decision to send more defensive weapons to Ukraine came after he privately expressed frustration with Pentagon officials. And we saw that moment where he was kind of told, and he was, I didn't know about that. And then he went and did it anyways, even though they're saying that it was a stockpile issue. We were kind of low on it, which is why it seems that the Pentagon didn't want to do this, but he overrode it and did it anyways. The Pentagon announced last week that it would hold back some air defense missiles. Because of concerns that American stockpiles were in short supply. So, and then Trump publicly says on Monday that we will be sending it. I want to show a clip of him saying this because I think this is a very big tell. We're going to see two angles. Here's him saying it.
Are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
Now, you see who's sitting next to him over there, 2 seats over. That is CIA Director John Ratcliffe. Let's do a little close-up on Ratcliffe here and see his reaction to Trump, because it seems like it was probably unexpected. And he seems pretty happy about it. Let's see.
More weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
Wow. I guess that's the look of someone who just, got a big payday, or I don't know. That's why I'm kind of looking at that like, what does that feel? I feel like somebody who just won their name came up in the lottery. You won the big prize. Your name was drawn. Oh yes, big payday coming. That's what it seems like to me. There might be more to it than that, but to me it seems that this was a genuine reaction in the sense that there's certain moments where Trump is kind of acting on his own impulse sometimes and doing this. And again, then the irony, the twisted irony, the timing of this, right after he's given this Nobel Peace Prize nomination, he turns around and does this. So they were probably not actually expecting this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually do think, I know we've talked about this before, but I do think that he is caught off guard sometimes, very much because he's not entirely in the know of everything. And no president has been really in recent times. And this is nothing new, but I think his supporters expected him to do more. And I'm not saying he's free of any guilt, because if he was who his supporters said he was, he would actually be fighting to do something. And we know the consequences of that. But I'm not even buying that he ever was that to begin with. I mean, I think Donald Trump is the perfect person to unleash and start off, take us from bad to worse, because people thought, well, it can't get any worse than Joe Biden. And then here we are. It's gotten increasingly worse. The genocide is continuing. Wars are continuing. There's more wars now, on the horizon. No wars have been ended. But there has been this narrative that the opposite is happening, this massive gaslighting. And we talked a little bit about this, but I think it's important to point out that gaslighting that he has done to his supporters, the stabbing in the back, the painting them as conspiracy theorists, I think is going to wake up, and has already woken up, a significant amount of people. Obviously not everybody, because people are still delusional and think like maybe, he's playing 50D chess, or maybe we should go back to the Democratic Party because that's also happening, or maybe we should just, continue voting third party, but without having fair elections. It's just like people still are finding reasons to wait for a savior. But I think for a segment of the Trump MAGA crowd that was entirely very much for taking on the surveillance state, taking on the deep state, they are entirely betrayed, because this not only has to do with the deep state, but it has to do with children, with all of these nefarious things, and certain people controlling, the world. We're talking about the predator class, an elite group of people, the subservience to Israel. All of these things, I think, have backfired in a lot of ways. I think it's going to take some time, but when Trump is there, kind of coming off like he's not in the know, people are like, wait a minute, if he's not in the know of this, then who is? And I think more of these questions are being asked, not just by the MAGA crowd, but by the people who don't even like Donald Trump, by people who are like wondering, wait a minute, wasn't this their thing? Wasn't this, the one thing he was going to deliver on? And now you're telling your supporters that, you're a conspiracy theorist. He's echoing the Democratic establishment now. So what is the difference then of voting or of supporting a Republican? If you stand by and eliminate all emotion and look at it, he is proceeding policy-wise very much like any establishment Democrat or Republican would be proceeding. That's not changed at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is just to let people understand 100% now that Trump has not just turned his back on his base, but he's now aligned himself with the very neocons and the neolibs that he was fighting against from when he first stepped on the scene. We know about the historic moment in 2015 where he's on that stage, he calling out all the warmongers on the Republican Party, and he would never want to have anything to do with a John McCain or a Lindsey Graham or a Mark Rubio for that matter, or a Ted Cruz, or all these people. They were complete psychopath warmongers. Who the people were, he was championing the people to fight against that. And it was against the whole uniparty. And so that he's completely gone in the opposite direction now. And now I'm seeing people say, hey, listen, if you're MAGA and you're still believing that this is the way to go, and this is how you fight the deep state, is by going 100% Ukraine, literally emulating Joe Biden's policies for the last 3 years. If that's what you think it is, then you need to be putting the Ukraine flag in your socials and start aligning with some of the vote blue no matter who's, because you guys have the exact same take now. And so we've been saying this from the beginning. I have to say that this, more than ever, we need to continue now to say, guys, this is not a legit war. This is a proxy war. It's not about Democrats get it wrong, Republicans, they're all in on it together. This is a point of truth right now, a moment of truth where we got to remind people that they were plotting this back in 2016 and 2017. Or you could actually say 2014. But we know that when McCain was still alive and Lindsey Graham, they were saying the same garbage back in 2016, 2017. I found this clip. This is a reminder to people. This is the kind of language they were spewing when they wanted Hillary Clinton to be in office in 2016, 2017, so they could get the Ukraine thing going even sooner. This was the idea. And I don't think they knew at the time that Trump would be so cooperative as he is now. They're probably going, hey, why did we spend all that time trying to stop him back then when he was going to be cooperative the whole time? We could have done this. Why did we wait? We could have done this shit way earlier. Here's them planning this way back then.
We're going to go back and tell our colleagues what Russia's up to and the Baltics, what they're doing in the Ukraine. We're going to get briefed about Georgia. We hope to make 2017 a year of offense. We believe that Putin has hacked into our elections in America, that he's trying to undermine democracy all over the world, and it's time for new sanctions to hit him hard as an individual, his energy sector, his banking sector. It is time to push back against Putin, but be a better friend to our allies over here, including Georgia.
This is a very important trip. We just left Ukraine, where we've seen firsthand what happens when Russia crosses over into a country's independence, and we saw it in our own election with the attempt to influence our election.
We will be working for much tougher sanctions against Russia. They attacked the United States of America. The hacking was an attack, and we should be treated as such, and we think their financial institutions and other aspects of the Russian economy should be addressed, and we will strongly urge our colleagues to enact more meaningful and stronger sanctions against Russia because of their attack on the United States of America.
Wow, they were pushing those sanctions all the way back then, and we're living through them right now. And again, guys, if you thought that Trump was the one that was going to call these people out and put it into action, you thought wrong. We are now seeing the exact policies in play that have been in play this entire way. And again, I bet I'll double down on this. I bet that they're wishing, Lindsey Graham's wishing right now that he had started this sooner and didn't wait until they got Trump out of the way to do it in 2022. They could have done this much sooner, actually, now looking back.
It's so crazy watching that because it's been almost 10 years since all of that took place. And I remember, being called a Russian propagandist way back then before I ever even set foot inside Russia, and to the point where people started mocking it. I mean, if you're just going to call me a Russian propagandist, I'm just going to make fun of you because it's absolutely ridiculous. And all of that was entirely debunked and disproven. I mean, there's been zero evidence of Russia trying to infiltrate our elections. We do that ourselves. Thank you very much. We don't need outside forces or the ghost of Hugo Chavez to come interfere in our elections. We literally do it on our own. And so watching that and now seeing what's going on, really little has changed except for the fact that we did push sanctions on Russia. We did get involved in the Ukraine war. So things have gone from bad to worse increasingly in the last decade. And people still think that they can't get worse. And I'll tell you, they can. They very much can. We can be in, a confrontational direct war. Right now, we have proxies doing our job. We have Israel in the Middle East. We have Ukraine in Eurasia. And we have, Taiwan and other, the Five Eyes, I would say, in the Far East. And so they even named Georgia, which we have already attempted to manipulate against Russia. And like I said, now there's Azerbaijan, and there's just been continuous attempts. And I think, and I hope that Russia, Iran, and China are realizing very quickly that they need to full on make direct alliances, because the United States doesn't just stop. I mean, we may not be the best chess players, but we do always have something up our sleeve, and we're extremely obvious about it if you pay attention. And so I don't think any of this is over. I think a lot of this stuff is just beginning to come out full on. The plans that we saw 10 years ago are now being enacted upon. So yeah, it's crazy to see it.
Yeah. Well, they are getting much worse, because you mentioned earlier, you mentioned Palantir, and we know the more we look at that, we can't believe how many elements of our society and the global society as a whole that Palantir is involved with. Not just so we find out obviously that the ICE situation is about you're targeting people here. You're targeting citizens, non-citizens. There's this database being created that's going to function. This private company is going to function to be, to oversee the government agencies and basically go after whoever they want. We know that the people that run it, we know not just Peter Thiel, we know that Alex Karp has been very vocal about his intention of what he wants to do with this, policing the world and going after their nemesis, going after adversaries, going after people who question them. That would be us. That would literally be us. They're talking about us when they say people asking questions. We will teach them a lesson. But now we talk about the timing of the Netanyahu-Trump meeting, giving Trump this crazy nomination for peace, Nobel Peace Prize, and Netanyahu So Trump goes off and does his Ukraine weapons. Netanyahu comes out, and we saw this happen. This is a deal that was signed while he was here. So this might have been the whole purpose of him being here in person this time, not just to do his laundry in the White House, not just to have a nice dinner in the White House. He came here to do this. Israel signed an agreement with the U.S. to cooperate in AI. Don't forget it. They just signed policy to consolidate the AI of all the data of all Americans, and now the data will be shared with Israel. Enjoy. Look at that. So this is and again, it's not. I don't know Palantir specifically mentioned here, but we know who gets to have the contract. We get it. We understand that part of it. So this is what is being celebrated right now on top of all this other stuff. And this is Netanyahu. Let me play this clip, and I want you to respond to this. This is Netanyahu and how he maneuvers his way out of this meeting with our press and how he behaves in front of them. This is also kind of disturbing to say the least. Disgusting, really.
I completed a second meeting with President Trump. I want to inform you something that will shock the various reports that come out. President Trump and I have a common goal. We want to achieve the release of our hostages. We want to end Hamas rule in Gaza. We want to make sure that Gaza does not pose a threat to Israel anymore. In pursuing this common goal, we have a common strategy. Not only do we have a common strategy, we have common tactics. This doesn't involve pressure, doesn't involve coercion, it involves full coordination. President Trump wants a deal, but not at any price. I want a deal, but not at any price. Israel has security requirements and other requirements, and we're working together to try to achieve it.
To be clear, those requirements, he's saying the security requirements are that we have to control Gaza no matter what. That's the requirement. So the two-state, we just be very clear, there's no two-state anything, because two-state means that each state has ability to control their own security and their own military. And that's the requirement. They're unwavering on that. He's made it very clear. Just to want to throw that in. Let's hear just the rest. He's gonna talk to this reporter in a very condescending way here in just a second, and then I want your take on this.
Everything else that you hear and are being briefed on is folly. It's about as accurate as the reports that you had before the Iran war, about the great tension between us, about the great disagreements between us. And I say, when will they ever learn? I don't know. It's not important. We're continuing. We're pursuing this. And I hope with impending success.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, are we close? Is pushing out Palestinians to countries where they have no connection to going to make Israel safer in the long run?
We're not pushing out anyone, and I don't think that's President Trump's suggestion. His suggestion was giving them a choice. You have a choice. Where do you live, madam? Where do you live? In D.C.? Are you an American citizen?
Yes.
Do you think you have a right to go to another country if you seek to do so?
But, sir,
the Palestinians should have that right. It's called the freedom of choice and nothing more than that.
Sir,
No.
Oh my God. Can you be any more condescending about a reporter living in DC and having a choice to go where she wants versus and aligning that with this absurd, idiotic, just disgusting idea that's the same as a Gaza and a Palestinian right now having a choice to go anywhere they want. I'll pass it to you, Fee. There's a lot there, but I'm not okay with this, obviously.
This is the first time I agree with most of what Netanyahu's saying, and I'll tell you why. Okay. He's literally telling people the entire truth. He's literally saying,
"Yeah,
when will you all learn? Like, there's never been any feud. I am sick and tired of seeing the hopium online from a lot of people. It's not just Trump supporters. It's literally everybody across the aisle. Oh, Donald Trump and Netanyahu are done. They're fighting. Israel's finished. We're done. No, they're not. They're not done. They're not finished. Yes, they got an ass whooping. Yes, they did. But are they done? No, they're not done. They're literally planning how they're going to continue their ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, not just Gaza, because we know the West Bank is very much right now being attacked. And so there is zero likelihood of a two-state solution ever functioning like a two-state solution. So people promoting that, including foreign governments, including the UN, including any sort of diplomatic idea or suggestion, it's not only a waste of time, it is an absolutely, like I would say, or even indirectly contributing to the continued genocide and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, because you're not putting on a viable solution. Israel, Netanyahu, this is what I mean. He's literally telling you, we have one common goal. We want Israel's security. We want to achieve our goals. We want to end Hamas. We don't want, we want to make sure that Hamas isn't a danger to Israel, which we know what that means. And he's saying there's absolutely never been a feud. So people promoting this idea that the United States and Israel will break up in one way or another based on, the way Trump looks at Netanyahu or something that happened, and not based on the actions that are happening right before us, is to me ludicrous. It is insane. We need to really understand that we have a symbiotic relationship with Israel. Nobody has, I would say not enough people have batted enough eyes when we talk about interference, when we talk about, China coming in and TikTok and Russia and all this stuff. People need to understand we already are invaded. We don't need people south of the border to invade us. We have Israel. Why aren't you talking about how Israel has invaded every facet of our government? And yet we continue on like this is just a normal relationship. It's a toxic relationship. We get nothing of benefit. Israel gets all the benefit. And that's it, really. The normal average American sees zero benefit to this relationship we have to Israel. Maybe the defense, big tech, Silicon Valley, maybe they see, as we'll talk about in a second, with Palantir and with all these other industries, they see a benefit, the intelligence community. But we, as a regular people, we don't see a benefit. And on top of that, we have just the wrong, the complete and total obvious wrong that is happening, the stain on humanity that is happening in this modern day Holocaust. So to me, I really, what Netanyahu's saying is disturbing, yes, but he is being far more honest. And by the way, the Israelis have always told us how they feel, what they want to do to Palestinians. It's us and everybody else around them that either makes excuses or tries to minimize what they're saying. They have been very clear. They want the complete and total annihilation of the Palestinian people, no matter the cost, even the children, even the babies. And that's what they want. So we need to stop lying to ourselves and take them for their word. If that's what they want, we need to do something to stop it, because it just doesn't align with any sort of new world people say they want to achieve, whether it's BRICS, whether it's multipolarity. None of that aligns. As long as we have something like Israel in the region, it's going to continue to poison the well of everything else. And I'm talking about it in these terms because that's the reality of what we're facing here. It's bigger than Palestine. It's bigger than Gaza. It is something that reflects where we are as humanity in our evolutionary process, really. Like, if we can't do something about this, then what's next? Like, how are we going to continue, evolving? How are we going to achieve any sort of peace? How can we talk about a new world if the same things are happening in this one where we're headed? So
I'm trying to find some hopeful element coming out of these recent occurrences that are really hitting particularly MAGAs over the head really hard, and they're fighting back. They're saying this is not what we signed up for. The whole system's rigged. The thing Trump used to say, the system's rigged. He's part of he is the rigging. He is in that. There's nobody fighting for us. And if I feel like, is there a silver lining here that if enough MAGAs are furious right now, and then we've been in our space for so long, I mean, is there enough of a movement of new people coming together saying, wait a minute, we've been all kind of saying the same thing, and we're realizing that the entire thing is rigged, and Israel is the one that's basically rigged it, and everyone's been going along with it, including our media, including all the politicians. Anybody pretending they're going to go in and fight the deep state were part of it in the first place. If they weren't part of it, they wouldn't have made it to their position. So if there's enough people that know that, is this the time? Maybe this is the moment of truth where we spend the last 3 years of Trump going to continue doing this crap. But maybe there's a way to build a real bottom-up movement here now that we have so many people seeing it, because I don't think we saw it. And I say we, I mean people in general. They knew the system was rigged. They didn't know how much Israel was the one rigging it. They didn't know how much that was ingrained in everything. Is this a new time we're getting into, Fiorella, or are we just going through the same circles of pretending there's somebody that's going to save the day and it never happening, and we all just stay depressed and isolated, and going through circles? I don't know. Is this a new time?
I think more and more people are becoming aware. That is a fact. I mean, I have family members that went from being MAGA to then seeing what he's doing, right now, what Trump is doing specifically, actually, with Israel. And that, I think that's woken a lot of people up. Just also the hatred that's come out. I think the eye openings of the giving into the surveillance state. A lot of these things for the right have always been, or at least the populist right, have been vital. And but the problem is you have still this idea that, and this is what impedes us from going to the next level, that Elon Musk's new party is going to save us, or that the Democratic Socialists are going to save us now with a new candidate that's backed by the same people that AOC and the Squad were. I mean, it's this mentality that we don't know what to do unless we just vote or put it on someone else to come save the day. And we have to break that mentality of electoral politics. And to me, that is the biggest thing. I don't think it's negative to say that electoral politics is a dead end. I think it's realistic. And I think that the sooner we learn that, we can then tackle power directly more in a way that can actually get us back into having holding the levers of power. But right now we are stuck in that perpetual cycle where we see what's wrong, we want to do something about it, but the only thing people can think of is, oh, well, maybe Elon Musk has an answer, or maybe Zoran Mamdani has an answer, or maybe somebody else has an answer. We don't realize yet that all of these mechanisms are captured, and that there has to be a thinking outside the box. And the only way that will happen is, I think it has to go beyond. It's slowly creeping up, but I think it has to go beyond to, what's happening in a faraway country. It's really becomes about what happens to you. And we saw that, for example, in history. And I'll give some quick historical context. We saw that during the war in Vietnam. You had a lot of soldiers return home from the war in Vietnam who were initially very patriotic, who wanted to defeat communism, who, went in there really, really just full on ready to make sure the US defeated the crazy communists, and then experienced unfathomable things at war where they had to kill innocent people, children, babies, all of these things that happen with war. And they realized that when they came home, nobody gave a damn about them. They were treated like nothing. And then on top of that, there was more war, more death, and their friends were killing themselves and coming back with just complete and total psychosis, essentially. And nobody did anything about it. The politicians didn't care. That ignited more and more movements against war. We don't even have that right now. We're not even at that level where we have an anti-war movement. Yeah. But I think you're absolutely right. It's not about left or right anymore. In the United States, it's 100% top down. And everything else right now distracting us, about the social hot topic, button issues, all of these things, they're distractions. We have to go back to the basis first, which is who is in power, what are they doing to us, all of us, and how do we actually take them down? And I've seen that firsthand in the change in some friends and family members who are now realizing that they too were lied to and that they never thought that this would happen.
Yeah. No, I like you brought up the historical context there. I have as far as Vietnam goes, I have a kind of my own theory on the treatment of soldiers. I think, tell me what you think about this. I think it was a psyop that they tried to destroy the anti-war movement by telling the public that if you were against the war, you hated soldiers, and they presented it that way. And then since that didn't really, it worked to a point, but then, like you said, there were more people taking to the street. They were like, we're going to double down on this. We're going to have soldiers march with us. So they had they countered that. They said, this isn't true. We actually aren't against soldiers. We're against what the people in power are doing to other places of the world that are affecting everyone. And we're just against that. We're not actually against the soldiers who were drafted, by the way, against their will. So we're not actually against. So they tried that mechanism, didn't work. Then they went beyond. They go, okay, well, how else do we destroy the war movement? Well, let's just create this thing called hippie culture, and we'll tell people that these people just like doing drugs and having promiscuous sex. Oh, and don't forget the part about they're very dirty and they smell, and that kind of got rid of them. So there's different ways you present the thing, and I'm just saying I'm looking at a different. I never thought of it that way for you, but like I see that because we're living through this now. How you go in the streets, and we've been reporting on what's going on in the streets, and then you turn on CNN, you go, they're telling you a different thing than what's there. They're telling you, look at these Free Palestine people. They're violent and they're rambunctious, and we have to stop them. It's like, no, you guys are making that up. That's not. They're for peace. They're peaceful. That's what when you're anti-war, by definition, you're peaceful. And by the way, you're not smelly and lame either. You have so. There's a way they find a way to stop you, and I think they did. I think you're right. They made it so there's not that many left that even are doing it at all. At least in this country, they're not. Other parts of the world, they kind of are, but here, no. It's kind of like this.
Yeah.
Let's before we wrap this up, because I know you got to get out of here in a few. But let's I do have this clip of Catherine Austin Fitts. Let me play this. This is her analysis on Palantir in Israel. So we'll play the clip. It's a 3-minute clip, but I'm just going to play it in its entirety, and I want to get your response to this, because I think this is what we're really talking about. Underneath all of this, this is where we're heading next. So let's pay attention. Here we go.
Palantir's in partnership with Netanyahu syndicate and the breakaways.
But they have contracts with Health and Human Services. They have contracts.
The government pays them massive amounts of money. And so if you look at the Doge theft, what you've done is you've moved between the government contracts. There's a new sole source ICE contract on the way to Palantir as well. That's just announced. I just found that last night. So you've got, they have the Treasury data, they have the IRS data, they have the Social Security data. They now they're going to have all the ICE data.
They had some already.
Yeah. They had some already, and then Trump has announced he wants to privatize Freddie and Fannie, but Palantir's going to underwrite all the packages before they come into Freddie and Fannie. So they're going to have all the housing data, and we know HHS has said they're organizing all the health, public and private health data. So I'm assuming that's going in as well. And basically, you're talking about that data being managed and I think at this point basically privatized into AI.
Owned by they're going to effectively own it. They're going to have AI running it. And one of these things
I don't know if they will legally technically own, because if you look at how it was transferred, so the Doge operation, if I'm right, and this is my hypothesis, if the Doge operation did what I think, they transferred all the data and they did it when an XAI announced a partnership with Palantir.
Yes.
And then the government turned around, and Palantir had a lot of contracts with those agencies anyway, but then they gave them additional contracts. And so they have plenty of money, especially the ICE is going to be sole source, so you can just do pretty much whatever you want. So they have plenty of money to manage that data. And yes, I think they have it on a private basis. And what's interesting, I have somebody, a professional that I work with who has for his business has to do income verification.
Mm-hmm.
And magically, 2 weeks after Doge got the Treasury, Social Security, and IRS, suddenly the income verification service he uses announces they have 100% of Americans now complete data on everyone magically.
It's astonishing. And one of the elements of the ICE contract is that they can track immigrants' location in real time through Palantir back to ICE. You know, that's the
Which
kind of
means they can
surveillance.
attract everyone.
Exactly.
Right.
There's absolutely no reason that doesn't apply to the citizens.
You know, the ICE story is complicated because there are multiple things going on,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no doubt the primary thing going on is building a complete biometric surveillance of the entire population.
Of the entire population. So you use.
Yep. Yep. I hate the fact that, you know, she's right, because I literally just did this article on this, and that's exactly what people are missing. All the Trump supporters that have been supporting the border surveillance, it's essentially, literally, the prison building, all of that. It's going to come back to haunt them, to haunt everybody, actually, whether you support it or not. And that's the worst part of it, is like people willingly were cheerleading for that. The people that would have normally stood against it if Biden had been in power and imposing all this surveillance, and with a big, beautiful bill act, and with also the defense budget, all of that is in there. It's outlined. I mean, Palantir received $113 million just on that little bracket of federal contracts since Trump took office. And if we recall back months ago, I think it was February, I remember people were cheerleading for the Doge and saying, "Oh my God, this is great! You know, they've taken off the pro-democracy groups, the NGOs, all of that. It's just going to be gone." And it's like, do you guys really think that's going to be gone? No, they've just transferred it into another sector, now the State Department and within. And now, whether Elon Musk is there or not, Silicon Valley, Palantir, all these companies have access to it. And who is the number one go-to intelligence, AI surveillance state in the world? I would say, compared to the United States, I would say it's Israel. And Israel has its hands on all of this. And it's really, really scary that people are, you know, talking about this bill. Like, I understand all the stuff that's in it about cutting and cutting and cutting, but you could expect that. What people didn't expect is just how much is there for AI, for surveillance, for all of this deep state, really scary stuff, spying on Americans, this biometric, technological surveillance earth in the United States. But we're the ones that actually are implementing this. And it looks like very few people are going to escape it. And Real ID, of course, points to the fact that that's obviously been where we're going for a long time.
Final question for you, Fiorella. What do you predict Trump's final legacy is going to be?
I haven't been asked that. That's like an interesting question. I mean, I think right now, unless he does something spectacular in a negative way or positive way, like take us into another direct war or draft or do something like that, his legacy is going to be one of the outsider that wasn't, the one who betrayed his base, very much like Sanders did. So now we've collected, right? We have the Sanders, we have the AOC, the progressives. Now we have Trump doing it. We had also RFK Jr. also involved in all of that. So now I'm hoping people will start to see less and less and fall for it less and less, right? Because now unless he does something more crazy, he's going to go out looking like he lied to the people that got him to where he was. He lied to an entire movement. The entire movement is dead. The entire MAGA movement, what it stood for, is dead. And even if I didn't agree with everything they stood for, at least those people believed in what they believed. And they believed that these were the tenets that they were going to push forth. But that's, you can't stand by that. And the people that are genuine about these things are gone, and they're completely, call it the homeless left. They're the homeless right. They're ready to figure out, wait a minute now, what do we do? And I think that is, you're right, that is an opportunity, I think, to seize and continue educating people and continue having these conversations, with people we may not agree with on every single issue. And this is something that, I think a lot of us, both of us here, have done. But it doesn't mean you give up on this idea of, being against war, empire, against all of this. But it means you start talking about it in a way where people are like finally getting what this is really about and finally understanding who their enemy is. And I think Trump actually inevitably has helped wake some people up in that way by becoming yet another stooge of the deep state instead of fighting it.
I think it's very well said. And this could be the silver lining here in this, amidst this chaos happening, is that we can find each other within the smoke of being had. You can find each other within that smoke. Say, hey, we're here too. We're here too. You're here. Like, welcome all MAGAs, all homeless rights. We're here too. Let's align. Let's collaborate. Let's start something new. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, AOC. Thank you, Trump, for helping us see through the bullshit. We see it now. Here we are. Let's move forward.